Deepak, and it is day 3 at TCT 2015, and we continue to see important new data coming out of the late-breaking trials. With me is Deepak Bhatt, my friend, associate, and teacher who knows all the stuff about all clinical trials. Deepak, we've got 2 clinical trials to talk about today. We have Tuxedo and ISAR. What is it? ISAR Desire 4. There you go. It's a very sexy title. Okay, so let's start with Tuxedo.
Actually, thinking of you in a tuxedo is kind of sexy.
Perhaps. Oh yes, no question.
Well, the Tuxedo trial I think is terrific. This was a study that pitted the paclitaxel-eluting stent against an everolimus-eluting stent, so a first generation versus second generation DES in diabetic patients specifically. And what it found, I thought, was a clear-cut win for the everolimus-eluting stent, where there was a lower rate of all sorts of important clinical events. Target vessel failure was cut by about half with the everolimus-eluting stent. There was less MI, there was less stent thrombosis, so overall I thought it was a knockout.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Let me just say, I mean, paclitaxel-eluting stents really are not the forefront of what we're using most of the time, though some people have wanted to be able to be sure that in fact the everolimus is better for diabetics. I think this does help show that. In fact, I think most of us use stents that are going to be pretty good anyway.
No, I agree with you. I mean, in the U.S., everyone I know is using a second generation DS, but I think the real point here is that it means that we should reconsider trials that pitted stents against surgery, for example, or even maybe stents against medical therapy, because with the second generation DS, they appear to be more efficacious and safer as well. And the safer, that is less stent thrombosis, might translate into even less death in a larger, longer term study.
I agree totally. The surgical issue is a real one, because now a lot of the times we say 3-vessel disease, diabetic, maybe a little bit of left main grumph, and off it goes, right?
That's right.
And so I think it may be something to ask about in the future. That's an important point. Let's move on to ISAR Desire 3, me in a tuxedo. So ISAR Desire 3, an interesting trial.
Actually, I think they're up to 4 now.
Oh, that's right, it is 4. We're having a difficult time today. ISAR Desire 4. So the issue is how to deal with in-stent stenosis once again. Question of whether a scoring balloon is worthwhile adding to a drug-coated balloon.
Right. Well, first of all, I think it's important to point out that with the drug-eluting stents, about 1 in 5 of the patients came back with re-stenosis. So, it's a real problem, and we see it in clinical practice. It's not like with bare metal stents, of course, because the initial re-stenosis is much less frequent. But if the re-stenosis occurs, then it may recur yet again. And the primary endpoint here was reduced with the cutting balloon marginally when one talks about binary restenosis, but in terms of actual patient-centered outcomes, target lesion revascularization, that sort of thing, no significant difference. So I think in my own practice, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is just use a balloon. But if it watermelon seeds, then I guess I'd whip out the cutting balloon.
I think you're absolutely right. I tended to cut early on. I don't do it so much anymore, but certainly if you have trouble getting through or trouble holding in position with your balloon, I think that's an important thing. The drug-coated balloon is an interesting part of this. I could never figure out what happened when you put an angioplastic balloon inside of a stent that had restenosis. Whether or not you squeeze this out like toothpaste through a sieve, or whether you're simply cracking it up a little bit and letting the angiogram fool you that in fact you have a good lumen. My guess is the latter. And you probably expand the stent a little bit further, so you make a lumen out of something that wasn't a lumen before. But I'm not quite sure that we really have the answer to this yet.
Yeah, or you could just jump ahead and say, why not put a second DS in that first DS? I mean, that'll produce the best immediate angiographic result, and even the long-term results of that approach seem pretty good, assuming the patient can take DAPT. And you want to make sure everything's well opposed, maybe use a little IVUS or OCT to help with that. But I think with that strategy, it works out pretty well.
So those are the 2 important trials for today.
That's right.
Lots more things coming at TCT 2015. Thank you, Deepak.
Yes, thank you.